video today just to remind myself and maybe anybody watching about the importance of thankfulness when God does things for you. I mean, it can be very humbling sometimes when God dissembles, when He disassembles a situation and makes His presence known. Then you realize, that He's always been there, and all throughout your life, He's delivered you from various situations. And one, I'm reading a synopsis on a YouTube channel of some people that were that hosted Rich Mullins. I'm a big Rich Mullins fan, always have been. There's always been a question about, what happened, what happened? Was it just a freak accident or what? Because he's going through some life changes, and he was studying Catholicism, and there's just always been questions, I mean, not just to the Lord, but also to, the world. What the heck happened? He went through the same RCA things that I did. And I mean, not together, but the same classes. And he was taken from the world just days before he would have been baptized and sealed. It's just I mean, it doesn't change anything. He still is, he's a recipient of baptism of desire. That's only a few churches hold that, but the Catholic Church is one of them. I believe Orthodoxy is too. I've never really looked at it, but Quakerism, it doesn't matter. The heart is the heart, and what God's light reveals to you, that's what He's revealed to each individual person. Everyone has their own individual light, and but anyway, listening to some of his music and to actually his last concert, an informal one, just amongst friends. It's like a jam session, basically. A jam session with a couple of families as attendees. That's basically what it was. And the girl that was her YouTube channel, she's talking about how that moment, altered, being there, the last jam session with Rick and with Rich and Vic. Anyway, his best friend, they'd been, touring and doing music for like 10 or 15 years. I think his name is Vic. But anyway, and just how that particular moment, she started writing songs, and then she met a lot of people, which it always was with those, jam sessions. You're always meeting people, networking, in addition to, gaining a network of prayer and friendship, Christian friendship, true Christian friendship, not face value, not for the looking good in the first 2 or 3 rows of pews, real, true Christian friendship. People not out to get people's ideas for songs or nothing, just true friendship. And, it altered her whole life course. And, obviously Rich was lost a few days after that. His best friend, and I mean, I heard a lot of stuff, through the gossip network. I shouldn't have listened to it. I should know better. But his friend did survive. They were in the vehicle together. Nobody's wearing their seatbelt, because they're a couple of guys in the big old Jeep having a good time. And, that's the time we make dumb decisions like that, real dumb decisions. And he stepped away from the vehicle, and a semi was trying to avoid the vehicle on the freeway, and that he got hit. And but anyway, the friendship is important. And when I was reading that YouTube channel, that a moment can alter our destiny, and I'm thinking of myself going around the wheel. Some people think I'm insane. They're like, "Oh man, you're all over the place." They don't understand, I've known a couple of elders in my life who are Native American. They understand the importance of going around the wheel. Sometimes we'll approach something differently. Our understanding of something will change, just minuscule, and we'll work our way around the wheel to the point where we began, only we have a deeper understanding. Our faith may be deeper. Our understanding of God and the world around us, nature, is different. Our understanding of ourselves is different. And it's growth. And I've certainly went around the wheel. I haven't really changed. These things that I've held dear, the same things I always hold dear. Just now I just have gained more depth of understanding. And, looking back at everything that's happened to us the past 8 years, all the targeting, the social media nonsense, the stuff that's just posted just to defame that's not true, and then the people who spent time in jail organizing against me to make themselves look good, some of them. And that's all this is. And, others, it's because they got, money. They're getting money for it. And others, because of the things, the requirements for registration and other type issues, it's easy money for some of these kind of people, because they can't get money otherwise. It's difficult, and obviously they're unrepentant, obviously. But all the things that people have done to us, and it's just humbling to see how many times God will spare you. So many times. It's just humbling when somebody sits down and thinks about it. It's very humbling. And, just a reminder that grace is always there for the repentant, for the person seeking. I love seekers. I've had some of those greatest conversations throughout my life, meeting people who are seeking his face, sometimes hippies, sometimes not, There's all kinds of hippies. People think the hippie movement ended. No, it didn't. It changed its shape. I'm a child of the 60s. I was born in the 70s. I come from a family of, we'll call them, several people in my family. They're country hippies. And if you're from the country, you're from rural middle America, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Those are the people that weren't at Woodstock. Many of them were not. Many of them didn't go to school in Berkeley, or go out on traveling the country in a van. But they have similar mentality of those who did. They didn't go protest the war or go to civil rights marches. They're just country folk, but they had a similar mentality, similar experience. Well, I'm a child of one of those. Actually, two of them. So, hippies changed shape 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now they just change shape. The appearance changes. They even brought back the Vanagon. There's a reason why they brought back the Vanagon. So modern day hippies, many of them on YouTube, so they can live in it and travel and do YouTube videos. Again, that movement changes. And, just looking back over the years, especially the past 8, all the things that the Lord has spared us from. And I'm guilty of sin for a while. I really tried to deconstruct Jesus, because I saw so many Christians around me failing the mark. Yeah, it discouraged me. Fake pastors, fake priests, people sitting in the front rows, but the minute they walked out of the church, various churches, just horrible people, And then some people, who are supposed to be Christian, some who even know me, they seem to get what's the word, romanced, by social media bullying and by gossip and by judging somebody's situation in their life to criticize them. Like our series of disasters, some of them financial, some went right after me, and yeah, it discouraged us. And so I went back to basics. I took the point of deconstructing Jesus. I took it really. I went at him hard from a postmodernist perspective, and I totally deconstructed him. And now I have to. My repentance is done. I think I deconstructed him too much. But then again, those doubts are important because now I have a refreshed perspective on him, and I realize that some things, it just doesn't matter. Like why argue about the filioque? Anybody who knows theology will know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Want to matter about, does it matter if we argue about oneness versus Trinitarianism? It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And I've come to the point where Solomon was. It's vanity. It just doesn't matter. What matters is faith. How are you going to live your life? Are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to be kind? Are you going to be righteous? Are you going to preserve that sharp tongue, or preserve that defensive blow until it's the last resort? It just reminded me of a long research paper that I read. It was more of an opinion piece, and we had to defend it, the just war theorem. I chose that. We didn't have to, but and I took a scriptural approach, using traditions of many rabbinic fathers and many Christian church fathers and church mothers as well. I took a very all-encompassing approach, and it was about Ein Brera, which means the last resort. That's Hebrew, Ein Brera. Ein Brera. Ein Brera. Ein Brera. That's better. No, it's not. Ein Brera. Yeah, swelling is destroying my Hebrew. But anyway, it means last resort, and it's a very deep, approach to when violence must be done. Make sure you take the appropriate legal steps, as well as make sure that you have no, other path of another resort. Run, or deflect and then flee. You just make sure that you're making the right choice legally and spiritually, and then God will be behind you. Some may be pacifists and take the peace testimony. They may take it, to a different place than I do, and that's fine, because within the body we support each other. It's supposed to be the body of the church global, ecclesia, supports each other, and everybody covers for another's needs or another's inadequacies, and others use their strengths to help others. That's the way it's supposed to be. It doesn't always happen in praxis, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And it just it's just humbling, when you realize all the things he's done, and how he's been with you while you're going around the wheel, and maybe deconstructing your faith, deconstructing the theology of those around you, thinking about praxis. Praxis is action, is intellect into action, for those that don't understand. Anytime you see the word praxis, that's intellect into action. And I'm just thankful for all he's done and how he's the past 8 years, the heck we've went through, the torment, how he's used it to teach us. Um, no, I mean, yeah, my youngest, she's seen a lot of the bad side of many people, and I will have to, help her through this so she doesn't blame God. But I have to start first with being repentant myself for my inadequacies and for demonstrating I had to reach out to God and make good decisions and always weigh the ethical with the legal and with the spiritual, everything. And I'll help her work through this. And I'm sure my oldest has been targeted overseas too, but I have to get back there. I can have minimal impact from here. The amount that we're criminally hacked and people, particularly a couple of people keep trying to interfere in our relationship. But I'm very thankful, and I see things a lot more clearly now, and I just see some things that don't really matter. And sometimes when you're in your darkest hour, he's there. And reminded of the, we always say Kiddush every weekend. And the beauty of the Kiddush is because it reminds me of the liturgy. Um, and, I'm always reminded about the cup. When you say the Kiddush is for a blessing, and it's a reminder of giving all. The vine, the fruit of the vine is given as a gift, and it's a remembrance of the Garden of Eden. It's a remembrance of our binding to the earth because we're a part of the creation that he gave to us. We're a part of it. And it's a reminder of a covenant. And also, personally and individually, I believe it's a reminder of giving all. When a grape gives its juice, it gives everything. When you take the juice out, there's nothing left. The pulp without the juice is nothing. There's barely even any pulp in there. When a grape gives of the vine, hagafen, when it gives its grape juice, there's nothing left. It's given everything. And that's what we're called to. That's what we're called to give, especially on Shabbos. Try to give as much of your time to God and your family that you can. And you try to keep, a part of your mind on concerns of heaven. And, then that translates through Havdalah into the next day and the following, days of the week. Doesn't matter if you're Jewish or Christian, or Muslims would approach this differently, but there's more similarity between Judaism and Christianity. But we carry that light through the rest of the week. Whether you're doing a Christian vigil on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, depending on your denomination, after that you carry that light the rest of the week, and you've taken from the cup of the Kiddush or the cup of the liturgy, meaning that you again renew that contract. It's a contract with God. It's a covenant. Yes, I'm of the appropriate mind and appropriate spiritual state to approach you. And I approach you by stepping forward to the altar. And I offer my hand. I'm again asking for your friendship, your forgiveness, your mercy. And I take the cup because as you gave all, I promise to also give all again. And then when you approach the bread, whether it's through the Eastern way, I come from a background of both. Now, in Kiddush, there's no bread. The bread on the table, which, Christians take it to another level because of the growth of the early church into what it is now. I keep saying but the early church was more like a Kiddush. Everybody's sitting at a table, many tables, and they had a head table where the presbyteri, the elders, would sit. And then they would say the blessings, Kiddush, and they would say Homatzi Lechem, the prayers for the bread of life. And that's what, things developed over time as the churches grew. And the little tiny Christian shuls, if you want to grab a Yiddish word, they became the churches of today. But the bread which is taken, and even for Kiddush, the bread is the reminder of being broken. Because what's the most important part of Pesach is the fact that nobody eats something with leavening, yeast. And it's like removing the light of life, something that creates special, a special event that causes the bread to change. And similar is with the liturgy. You go and you take the bread because he was broken, so we're broken too. We accept it in our hands. They're trying to discourage from the mouth, but some people still do it. But again, my personal opinion, I've done both. But I think that in the Eastern churches, it doesn't matter. You receive with a spoon. You receive both. But I don't think it really matters either way. But my personal opinion, when you receive it into your hand, or even in your mouth too, you could use this argument for that. But we're reminded of his brokenness, and once again, we're accepting that we will be broken too, not by others. That's a problem in the church. I've even heard people around the Tri-County area, especially Saginaw County, when we've went in there, people bragging about helping others be resilient, making other Christians stronger by giving them challenges or showing them the harsh side of the world that will prepare people for the end times. Stuff like this, in my opinion, that's man or women trying to be God. You cannot beat somebody down and abuse them to make their faith stronger. This is an abusive Christianity. Some people say, oh, well, you see it in monasteries, or you see it in some places. You'll see, spiritual fathers and mothers will be hard on people to make their faith stronger. I don't think it makes their faith stronger. I think what it does is teach it's an okay or an admissible aspect of Christianity for there to be some psychological abuse. That's the kind of mentality that caused so many people to be abused. Emotionally, physically, sexually, is that kind of mentality. Oh, a little abuse is okay. Oh, he or she went over. Oh, we'll just keep it quiet. Just move the pastor or the priest or the minister, whatever. Just move them. I don't agree with that at all. And if anybody wants to argue with me, they could just look at the Pauline epistles. They can look at any of the Gospels, especially the Synoptics, and they're not going to find Jesus being abusive or destructive to his followers, ever. So I'll just use that argument right there within the Christian Testament, that the abusive training is not really called for at all. And matter of fact, I know of a family's pastor that that always talks about knowing levels. There's very different levels of knowing God. The problem when somebody thinks they know more levels than other people and that they know the answers to all the questions, that's when I begin to step away. Because nobody knows all the answers. And when somebody thinks they know all the answers and they can take power over other people, even harming them, even if it's not in person, maybe it's like a word of gossip, or maybe it's a post, or maybe a joke in a sermon, still, I believe the same thing holds true. That's the person you should step away from. Or it means that person needs to be held accountable and challenged on that. Exhorted. Remind them, well, we all don't know the answers. And when one person is going to spiritually take power over another person and tell them this and this and this is okay, we have to be very, very weary of that, because it can become dangerous. So again, we're reminded by the breaking of the bread and the reception of the broken bread that will be broken too by Him challenging us, and sometimes Him allowing us to be challenged, like the story of Job, which is an allegory not for us, but for Israel as a people. But we could also place ourselves in his role in the allegory, of the challenges. And the beautiful thing about the story of Job that I've always liked is that people argue, they argue about, argue about the Torah says this, Torah says that, so Jesus is this, so Jesus is that. They get into these arguments about Christ. Usually it's Christology, various sects, or maybe even, Christians against Jewish community arguing about Christ. The only thing that I say is, I say there's a lot of ambiguity about Jesus, but one thing that's for sure, in some way, shape, or form, he existed. And regardless which historical profile, there's three in history that you're going to go from. I said the idea of him and what he did and what he stood for and what remnants were left down is the most beautiful thing in Kabbalistic history that I've ever heard of. Somebody willing to give everything to encourage the people to fight back, as well as to encourage the people to have faith. I think that's beautiful. And, if we're going to go back to the story of Job again, another beautiful thing about that story is the fact that at the very end, God, people could argue, this is the argument that some Christians will use and say, oh, well, Jesus was a spiritual king. He wasn't a king for this world. That's to come. Well, then I come to this argument. I think it's a lot more complex, and some things just, again, it doesn't matter. Vanity of vanities. But my argument comes from Job. If you look at the end of Job, what happened to him at the very end, everything that was taken to him by the evil one was restored times 2. Now, how is this significant? Because if you go back to the Torah, anything that is stolen from you, for there to be true forgiveness and true repentance, it must be returned times 2. And then the person who is wronged is obligated, halakhically, legally, they must forgive. Ultimately, it's in their heart if they're going to or not, but they've already been, they've already had in writing actually, there's, I think, like 3 or 4 mitzvot that are relevant to this, but it pretty much says you have to forgive because you've been returned what was taken times 2. If they cannot return the original item that was taken by them, the only way that the perpetrator can be forgiven legally, financially, and spiritually is if they return the monetary value times 2. If they cannot return the original item plus a penalty, and then they go to the temple and they do their sin offerings. It's just interesting that even God, in His great power and His great mercy and His grandiosity, is also bound by His own Torah. Kind of gives us, a little bit of a sense that if He's bound by His own Torah, this is one argument. I can make others, but if He's bound by His own Torah, that means that maybe things are a little bit deeper, and maybe we really don't know everything like we do. Or we don't really know everything like we think we do. Maybe it is a journey. Maybe it's a journey where we're going to make a lot of mistakes. And sometimes we may stray to a certain degree. I mean, never totally. I was just lecturing my daughter, when you go around the wheel, you have to be careful when you begin to see things differently and you embrace other ways of thinking to broaden your faith. You got to be careful that you never blame God or abandon God, because that's the point that you'll embrace evil. You can have doubts. Doubts are healthy. Maybe don't be too intellectual in your deconstruction of Him or, elements of your faith. But there's nothing wrong with a little bit of deconstruction to broaden your faith and to make you believe deeper and hold things more deeper, emotionally and psychologically. It's a process of, what is it that Jung said? It's like a process of osmosis when, these different parts of our psyches merge back and forth. Whether it's your soul or your mind. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of ambiguity and giving yourself time to absorb and understand and fully embrace the gifts that you're given from God, who loves us all, is patient with us all, and gives us chances every day. Chances for us to recognize how He's protected us. He gives us chances to recognize how He's blessed us, and He gives us chances to recognize how we're bound to Him as well as bound to each other. So we have to encourage each other and hold each other accountable as well. That's just some food for thought.